Hello! Oh wait, that was last week. Hello everybody, it's Carson here with Glasshouse Films, another midnight review presented by them, by the way. Carson, Sarah, and we're here to review George Clooney's latest directorial flick, Suburbicon. And I hope it's good.
Yeah. Has he directed stuff before?
Yeah, he's directed a fair few things.
Oh, okay. Well,
he's a pretty good director.
This is the first movie that I will see that he has directed.
Well, part of what makes him a fascinating director is that a lot of his tutelage was under Joel and Ethan Coen and Steven Soderbergh. And there are a lot of accounts that state that George Clooney's the first film he directed, I think it's Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, a lot of people said that was a very similar situation to Poltergeist, where it's like Steven Soderbergh produced Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, but a lot of people think that he kind of stepped in and guided George Clooney a lot. But even with that being said, George Clooney is still he's a good director within his own right. And so not only that, but I'm also fascinated by, it's also written by the Coen Brothers.
Yeah, so there's like 4 writers on the movie. I think it's 3. Yeah, I think it's
those two and someone else did a pass through.
I think it also said George Clooney did some stuff too. Julianne Moore is going to be in it. Yep. And I love her. She's a queen. Isaac. Yes. And who else is going to be in it?
Oh, Matt Damon.
Yeah, Matt Damon, of course.
So I don't know too much going into this. What I do know is what was presented in the first trailer, which appears that takes place in 50s or 60s, and an idyllic man's life is kind of shattered when during a home invasion his wife is murdered. And so I think he brings in his sister or his sister-in-law, played by Julianne Moore, as a motherly influence for his son. But the circumstances around his wife's death were curious, as in it might be connected to organized crime in some way. Yeah. And it looks like he's just slowly dragged into a lot of bullshit that he is not connected to. It really feels like there's going to be a lot of, or if not a lot of, the film will kind of pivot around mistaken identity and someone owing someone else, which is kind of similar to some of the stuff with The Big Lebowski, for those of you that have seen it. So there's a lot of I can see the influences of Soderbergh on this. I can see the influences of the Coen Brothers on this. So it's George Clooney's the swirl between those two. Yeah. I like that flavor. So I'm excited to see it. I have pretty high hopes for it.
I'm pretty excited too.
So
hopefully it's good.
We'll go watch it and we'll tell you what it's about when we get back.
Let's do it.
Welcome to Suburbicon, a town of great wonder and excitement.
Hey there.
Built with the promise of prosperity for all.
Nikki, you need to get up. There are men in the house.
And we're back.
Yep.
We just got back from seeing Suburbicon.
What'd you think?
Was not as good as I was hoping it would be. It's like we said in the previous part, it is directed by George Clooney, but it is written by the Coen Brothers, George Clooney, and some other guy. And so it definitely feels like a Coen Brothers film, but it feels like a very slow Coen Brothers film. So for example, I just thought Hail Caesar was okay, and that's a Coen Brothers movie, and that's kind of how this one felt for a good part of it for me, is I was like, okay, like, the story's just kind of slow, like, everything's just kind of okay, when is it going to pick up? But the more the movie went along, the more I enjoyed certain parts of it, and it was like the plot revealed itself more, as I was like, oh, like, now I get what's going on. The more I was like, okay, like, I kind of dig this. I like...
Okay, can I get in? Okay, because, again, I didn't like this movie. Now, spoilers, because we do actually have to talk about the plot. And I feel like a spoiler warning is warranted. I don't think you should go see it in cinemas. I don't even think it's worth watching on Netflix. I don't think it's worth a watch. Do you think it's worth a watch?
I do.
Okay.
If you like Coen Brother movies and those kind of movies, then it's...
Here's the thing. I'm a fan of Coen Brothers' work. More of their earlier stuff, but I'm a fan of their work. And I don't like it. So, but we will get into that.
Yeah.
But, plot. So, the plot is... Okay, because there's a couple things, and it's like... Okay. The through line of this film, there's this subplot, this very prevalent subplot, but the reason I bring it up first is because the movie brings it up first. There's a very prevalent subplot. It's like, okay, this is mid-50s.
Actually, late 50s.
No, they said the town was started in 1942.
And it's been 16 years.
12 years.
Oh, 12 years.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
So, mid-50s, and you're watching it, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, there's a lot of honkies here. There's a lot of honkies here. A lot of jive turkeys here.
A lot of white people.
And then you follow a postman, he goes up to the new neighbors. Oh, and they're black. And the movie preoccupies itself with that and that fact for like 5 minutes to start with.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but it's a weird subplot, and it's the things that happen there are meant to mirror what's happening at the perfectly nice white people's house, just on the other side. It's like, I get it, but it's so painfully obvious that I felt that it was insulting.
Yeah.
That and it's like, okay, you're telling this dark comedy, but you have some real, like, racially tinged stuff here that doesn't belong.
I felt I was like, okay, either tell that movie or tell the dark comedy movie. Like, I felt like because it just felt like...
It felt uneven.
Yeah, or like maybe I thought like, the subplot was going to connect to the main plot in more of a way than it did.
Yeah.
Especially at the beginning of the movie.
And then what it says at the very end, like the last shot, I'm just like, blow me. So, but again, that is the subplot, and that is the... It's kind of like a... I almost want to say do the right thing, where it's like, okay, yeah, we see the temperatures rising. I get it.
Yeah.
But anyway...
I can explain the main plot if you want.
So the main plot... Go ahead and explain how it starts, and then I'll jump in, because I realized a thing, and I leaned over to you, and then we're both like, Yeah. So go ahead and start with
So
that.
basically, the movie, you have this subplot that starts it off, and then there's a little house, with, can I say what it is, like the people that are there?
Oh, yeah.
With two Julianne Moores?
Yeah, that was weird. That was like an immediate, like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Why?
Julianne Moore plays one character, and then she also plays the twin sister.
Yeah, it's
and
like,
I was like,
double your pleasure, double your fun, but at the same time, at what cost?
It was just a little weird, but whatever. That's a minor point for me. And their house, the backyard of their house faces the backyard of the new family's house, and the aunt is like, oh, hey, little boy, that's my nephew, go play with this new kid. So he does. And he's kind of like hesitant about it, and as they're gonna go walk and play baseball, everyone in the neighborhood is watching them.
Yeah, but the kid isn't I don't know why we're spending this long on this, but the kid isn't hesitant, and this is kind of an important aspect of the film. The kid isn't hesitant because he's like, I don't want to play with the new black kid. The kid is hesitant because he's like, I don't want to play baseball.
Yeah, that's more what it is. Yeah, that's more what it is.
It's weird, but it's kind of important to the grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
anyway.
and like their friendship it matters, I guess, later on.
Yeah, that's what I felt a lot of this movie was. It matters, I guess.
And then basically, boys go to bed, and then I don't even remember the character's name.
Lodge.
Yeah, so the Lodge kid.
That's the last name of the family.
Yeah. He's trying to go to bed. His dad comes in and is like, hey, there are some men here. Come downstairs. And he comes downstairs. Everyone's sitting in the living room. There are these two guys that are there. And then you can tell, like, the viewers assume they're like, okay, they're here because they're gonna rob us or whatever.
Well, Matt Damon flat out says it.
Yeah, Matt Damon's
the dad.
Yeah, he's like, they're here to take some stuff. We're just gonna let them do it, and then they'll leave.
Yeah.
They all go sit at the table, the dining room table. They all get tied up, and then everyone gets chloroformed.
But the mom gets an extra dose of chloroform.
Yeah, and then that cuts to the little boy waking up at the hospital. And everyone's like, oh, we're so glad you're okay. And his dad's like, I've got something really sad to tell you. He looks over and his mom is basically has a breathing tube.
Yeah, his mom's dead.
Yeah, and then his mom dies.
So...
And then the film just kind of goes from there.
Yeah, okay, before we go further with the plot, I will say the first half of this movie...
It really drags.
Just drags, it's plodding. I'm just like... when are things gonna happen? And then, so what happens? So the mom dies, the aunt moves in with them, and then you see the aunt gets like a haircut. And I'm like, or she gets her hair done the same way as the wife who's now dead, the mom.
So
and it's
mom...
like, and I'm like, I'm getting some weird Vertigo vibes from this.
Yeah,
and
so the mom had like brown, no, it was the aunt had brown hair, the mom had blonde hair, and then the aunt decides she's gonna go blonde.
Yeah, so anyway, it's weird. I feel like I'm spoiling more than I normally want to, but at the same time, if you're to write out the plot and the things that happen, it wouldn't be very long till you hit this point, but this is still like 30 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
So what happens is that the family is brought down to police station. They see a lineup of people. They're like, we think we found a couple of people. We think we found the people that did this to you.
Yeah, because they were very open about what happened.
Yeah, they talk to the police. Anyway, the Julianne Moore and Matt Damon are like, nope, we don't see him. The kid sneaks in, and the kid's like, the fuck are you talking about? They're right there. And this is a weird red herring because a police officer accidentally flips on the switch because it's a two-way mirror. Flips on the switch and everyone can see everyone on the other side of the glass.
That's actually really funny when it happens.
Yeah, but what I initially thought was, oh, Matt Damon is saying no because he's going to take the law into his own hands. That's what this movie's about. It's about this emasculated 50s man who's going to take back his home. That kind of film, but it's not that kind of film.
No.
What it is, essentially, is you find out that it was a setup. That the dad set this thing up to commit insurance fraud so that he and sister Julianne Moore could pick up the insurance money. And then send the kid off, and they would go live it up in Aruba.
Which they mentioned so many times in the movie. That part I'm actually totally okay with because that is a total callback to a lot of noir films in which they're like, we'll make it to Mexico, and like Mexico is this idealized place. That's how it is in the movie. They're always like, have you been to Aruba?
It is funny the way that works, but tonally it's inconsistent because I'm like, wait a minute, is this like dangerous or is this funny? And a big problem is that the music never informs you one way or the other. The music thinks that it's for a serious movie. The movie thinks it's a comedy.
Yeah.
And that's a weird thing that it's at odds with.
And it's one of those movies where music's playing almost all the time.
I hate that.
That's honestly, unless you're doing a musical, and even then you don't always need the music.
It's a Danny Elfman thing that I hate.
Yeah, the music was done by Alexander Desplat. I think that's his name.
Something like that.
Yeah, Alexander, whatever. So I mean, it's not like the music is awful,
but it's ill-fitting.
Yeah, it's like I don't need to hear music the entire movie. Like, can you stop so I can listen to some dialogue?
And the other thing is, like, I'm watching this, I'm like, man, Roger Deakins would have shot the shit out of this film, man. But he was too busy, making the best movie of the year, Blade Runner 2049. So
from best year.
So essentially what it ends up being is and this is where the biggest chunk of my problems with this film come in, is essentially it is a noir film, a very straightforward, insurance fraud noir film that is seen from the kid's perspective. However, that doesn't work when we spend so much of the movie with Julianne Moore and with Matt Damon. This kid is milquetoast. I don't give a shit about him or his problems. And it's like, okay, I get it, but you're not doing the work. What would really make that work is the kid slowly suspects things. We spend a lot of time with the kid. We see it from the kid's perspective. But we see way too much shit from Matt Damon's perspective and from Julianne Moore's perspective. And I'm just like, this isn't working. It's just not working for me at all.
Although I didn't mind Matt Damon as a bad guy.
Yeah, but
I think in like the right circumstance, and I haven't seen Matt Damon in a lot of things, but I feel like in the right circumstance, he could be like a really fun bad guy.
Yeah, and the thing is
like your average, everyday kind of Joe guy who all of a sudden you're like, oh no, like he's up to some stuff.
So what I was gonna say is, acting wise, almost, and we'll get to the one exception in this film.
Yeah.
Almost nobody showed up to work on this movie.
I mean, I don't think
Julianne Moore does a fine job.
Yeah.
But she's doing Julianne Moore.
Yeah, and
I've seen her play that. She played that character earlier this year.
Yeah, and there were certain parts in the movie where I was like, I'm not really buying what you're doing right now, but that could also have just been the situation. Maybe I wasn't supposed to buy it. It's not obviously like an amazing movie she's in, but I don't mind watching Julianne Moore on the screen.
But she didn't show up to work. Matt Damon didn't show up to work. Matt Damon was I've seen Matt Damon do great stuff, but I was bored by his performance. Now,
our favorite part of the movie.
Real quick before we get to that, the henchmen were okay, but I've seen these character actors before, and I'm like, oh, you're doing your normal shtick. I could have sworn they've both been these characters in Coen Brother movies before, but the person who did show up to work, and he came out swinging.
So good.
Oscar Isaac.
So good.
He plays an insurance adjuster or a claims agent. Who thinks there's something fishy going on, basically. And
so much
it's like
fun.
Like the screen door opens, we see Oscar Isaac, and I'm just like, ooh, Oscar Isaac.
And just like the entire time he's in like his scenes, it's like, okay, yeah, like that was probably the highlight of the movie.
He knew exactly who this character was. He knew how he wanted to play this character. He had this effortless swagger that was like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to take my time doing it, and I'm going to have fun doing it. And it was just like, I want so much more of him in this. And I
just want like a solo movie of him being a claims guy, just like going to all these different people.
It continues to solidify just the fact that Oscar Isaac is one of the best actors working today. But that's it. I mean, the plot, I will say the plot does focus more as it goes, but the film never feels like a cohesive whole. It's like, I feel like the movie wanted to say and do these things for the first half, and then for the next half, it's like, oh, well, we're gonna go back to doing this. It's like, it's a mess.
I feel like a big part of that is there were 4 screenwriters, and I honestly feel like that's a little too many. Like a lot of my favorite movies, it's like usually like 2, maybe 3 people, but usually just 2.
Yeah,
and I feel like
it felt like a too many cooks situation.
Yeah, I feel like when there's so many people, like there are all these different ideas, and they're like, oh, well, we'll just do this. But like, there's so many things. It's just like that's too much.
You know what stuff with the black family who moves in on the other side, I felt like this was, I don't know if this is true, I doubt it, but it really feels like this was adapted from like a comic where that's running parallel to the story and like informs the story in a way. I guess. But in the film, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
For those of you that might get this, it feels kind of like the pirate story in The Watchmen, where it's like, okay, yeah, I understand how this is working in context of the greater story, but if you're to try and put that in the movie, that just doesn't fit. That doesn't work. And it just doesn't fit. And
I feel like if you had taken that out, the movie actually would have been a lot better.
Probably.
I think things would have just made more sense. Because at the beginning, I thought that maybe, what's happening with the subplot, like this, I for some reason thought like maybe they were more together. Like maybe the reason these like bad guys came over to the house and chloroformed everyone is because they saw like the aunt and the mom encouraging the kid to go
integration.
Like encouraging it. And I was like, okay, maybe I kind of thought that's what it was, and you could believe that considering how this Suburbicon town is very much like, we don't do that.
There was so I've recently begun listening to the podcast We Hate Movies. This is not an endorsement of them, but I do think they're very good. Check it out if you want. They discuss in I forgot the review, but they were discussing how in a particular movie, it's like, okay, you have these elements, but then you dump in this spice of like a rape scene, and that sours the whole dish. And I'm not equating integration and all and those kinds of issues and hardships with rape. But what I'm saying is that's a very particular spice that overwhelmed the dish of this movie. And it just didn't work. And I felt very little of this film worked. The music was fine, but it was misplaced.
Yeah.
And it was,
and there were times where it was
as we said, all through the
And there were times where it was like way too happy for like the situation. I was like,
yeah,
this isn't fitting very well.
And it wasn't like, oh, ha ha ha, you're playing a happy song during a dark time.
Yeah.
It's not a soundtrack, it's all a score.
Yeah.
Or it's just about all a score. I felt like the acting for the most part was boring. The way it was shot was okay. There was one scene where I felt like it was shot very well, and that's from under the bed.
Yeah.
I liked that, and I liked how that was done. But the problem is that's how the entire movie needed to be presented.
Yeah, when it's like it was a little more dark and gritty.
Well, not only that, but we see it from the kid's perspective.
Yeah.
We need to see the whole rest of the movie from that perspective.
I did.
That was like you get this small little window of what the movie could have been.
There were also a couple times where like we were in the kid's bedroom with him and you were seeing what he saw. There were a few times where that did happen.
But then other problems are like, okay, we understand the kid is out, but we're not observing this from the kid's perspective.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. The movie ruins that.
I also liked the opening part because at the very beginning of the movie they just introduced Suburbicon first, and I thought, and it's a very like fun 50s way, and I was like, okay, I kind of like this.
Founded in 1942, this community has begun to thrive. White people, mayonnaise and white people. Yeah, it's basically that. And I do agree. I think that worked, but it was one of the few things in this film that worked. I didn't come out angry. Like I'm like disappointed.
If you saw the Circle video, it's not like that.
Yeah, I'm not mad. I'm gonna forget this movie in 2 weeks. I'm gonna forget it in a week because next week is Thor 3.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna forget this movie in a week.
So would you recommend just not ever watching it at all?
Nah, stay home. Watch a better Coen Brothers film. Watch Miller's Crossing.
Which is weird because I'm like, I know this was directed by George Clooney, but
watch a different George Clooney film. Good Night and Good Luck, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, or Ides of March. Those are three
that
really
I'm a little sad that
movies.
This was the first George Clooney movie I watched because I'm like, is this how all his movies are?
No, I'll show you some other ones and you'll be like, oh. this guy can direct.
I mean, if you want to give it a try, I'm sure it'll be on a streaming service. You could watch it. At least watch like Oscar Isaac's part, because he is.
If you want Oscar Isaac, just watch Ex Machina.
Well, yeah, but I feel like there are some really funny things that he does in the movie.
Yeah, I do want a movie of just his character doing what his character was doing.
Yeah, but
that would have been fantastic.
And I mean, like, maybe I'll try and watch it again, but put it on more as like background noise when I'm like doing something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just okay. But next week, it's gonna be Thor's Day, because we're gonna see Thor. Some puns for you guys.
That was bad.
Oh no, it was a good pun, and I am so freaking excited.
It will be full crew on
excited.
that one.
It's gonna be good.
Thanks for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below if you saw the movie. What did you think of it? Where would you put this in the grand scheme of George Clooney directed films? Thanks again for watching. Subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/glassfilmshouse, facebook.com/glasshousefilms, and Twitter @glasshousefilms. Thanks, y'all.
See you next Thursday.